Now that Indiana has won a national championship in only 2 years under the Kurt Signetti project, a lot of college football people are asking, who's the next Indiana? Who's the next Kurt Signetti? Well, I don't think you have to go outside of the Big Ten to find a possible answer for that, and it resides over in California with UCLA. We'll talk about it next, right here on the College Huddle. Welcome to the College Huddle, everybody. 87 independent podcasts from coast to coast. Check out the website, thecollegehuddle.com, to find your next favorite college football podcast. We have UCLA covered. We have Indiana covered. We have the majority of the Big Ten. In fact, all but I think 2 schools covered in the Big Ten over at the College Huddle. I got this question in the comment section from another video. This was from John. Eric, can you do assessment on UCLA football after the transfer portal? Well, your wish is my command, my friend. Let's dive into UCLA and the transfer portal. Now, before I get into individual guys who I think can make UCLA much better than they have been the past couple seasons, and really since until Chip Kelly's first 2 years at UCLA. In all honesty, you have to mention 2 things. Number one, you've got to mention this guy, Bob Chesney, right? So he comes over from James Madison team that just played in the college football playoff. Whether you wanted them there or not, they were there, okay? He comes over to UCLA. He has that James Madison glow about him, G5 success glow about him. Wasn't at JMU for a terribly long time. All of those things, and was successful before he got to JMU. All of those things point very similarly to what Kurt Signetti did. He goes to a Big Ten school, like Signetti. One of the biggest differences, however, he's going all the way out to the West Coast as opposed to sticking around what one might argue his region of the country that he's familiar with. Now, I actually think that that's a good thing for him. Number one, less competition in trying to answer the "aren't you just a Kurt Signetti, wannabe?" question from recruits, and the whole negative recruiting thing that happens when a lot of universities that are really good are all really close geographically to one another. So yes, he's got USC out there, but there's really no ties to Lincoln Riley or any of those things, no past references at all to where they could be looked at each other and kind of compared as far as recruiting against one another. And no one is looking at UCLA right now and saying, they're going to compete with USC tomorrow. But let's not kid ourselves. USC hasn't been to a college football playoff since Lincoln Riley's been there. They've not started to knock on the door here. They've kind of turned the corner a little bit. But how far is UCLA truly away from that, given the fact that you have the transfer portal now? And boy, oh boy, did they hit the portal. They hit the portal super heavy, which is exactly what Kurt Signetti did at Indiana 2 years ago, and why he was being heaped all this praise upon him post national championship game after the 2025 season, where he had all these older, mature guys. Now, one thing that's a little bit different, one might argue with Chesney here, is did he go for production like Signetti did in the portal? Absolutely, he did. He also went for potential as well. He brought in a lot of 4-star guys who are now considered 3-star transfer portal guys because they didn't either pan out or get playing time at their universities that they were recruited to, but they were very highly recruited guys to start with who maybe just need a change of scenery, a second chance. Maybe they're really, really good and they were just blocked where they were at. But he also brought in a ton of production as well, which was exactly what Cignetti did, including bringing in a ton of his own guys from James Madison, who just played in the CFP, like I said. And despite losing at Oregon, getting blown out defensively, they did have a pretty good second half offensively to at least make it look somewhat respectful. Now, Kurt Cignetti brought in a ton of JMU guys as well. He also brought in a ton of really good G5 guys, very similar to what Chesney has done as well. And we were saying on my other show back when Cignetti um, took over Indiana was we were calling it the Great G5 All-Star test. Could a G5 All-Star team compete at a Power 4 level? And the answer we got from that in year number 1 was yes. And then the answer we got in year number 2 was, oh, yes, they can. They can win it all. Now, obviously, now that the target is no longer now that Cignetti's no longer chasing that target, but now the target's on his back, it'll be very interesting to see what he does in year number 3. However, this guy is in the exact same position Cignetti in Indiana was in back in 2024 when he first started and got to Indiana. Biggest difference is this: UCLA's had experience being successful before. Their fans are used to being semi-successful. They have experienced multiple Rose Bowls. They've been in national title hunts before as a program. So it's not like he's taking over the losingest program in Division One college football history, which is what Cignetti did. So advantage Chesney here in that situation. Now, obviously, if he's going to be successful, no matter how good of a coach he is, he's going to need players. And that's what they did. They went in the portal and they have completely changed over the roster except for one major thing, which is why I think he will be successful in year number 1, and that is Nico is coming back. That's right, the quarterback will be back at UCLA for his fourth and final season in college football. And so getting him to stay and not jump in the portal and leave and go to a third school was, I think, the biggest thing Chesney did, in my opinion. Now, all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into some of the players that are coming in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start first on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to talk about, and we'll start up with defensive line, and I'm going to highlight some guys who they won, who I think are going to be major players or could be possible reasons why UCLA will be much more successful in 2026. And then I'll kind of give you my baseline of what success should look like for UCLA given their schedule in 2026. So here we go. Let's dive into it, everybody. First off, we have on the defensive line Amir Washington from Texas Tech. Although he didn't have a big season in 2025, was basically just a backup guy. 2024 was more of the year he saw his, I guess you could say, emergence. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. He's from Orange, Texas, 6'2", 270-pound defensive lineman who I think can get in there and disrupt some things for UCLA. Following Chesney over from JMU is Aiden Gabaria, I think. Gabara, maybe, depending on his pronunciation. He's from Fairfax, Virginia, 6'5", 255-pounder with another year of eligibility remaining. 38 total tackles last year, 4 sacks off the defensive line. And there's going to be a theme here, by the way. A lot of the guys who you're going to hear are from JMU, okay? Here's a guy from Rice coming on the defensive, or not from Rice, excuse me, Rutgers on the defensive line. Daryl Dinaho or Dingohi, possibly pronunciation. Again, not huge stats last year, but the year before his redshirt freshman year, or his sophomore year, excuse me, 28 tackles, a sack, some pretty decent stats. He will also make a push on that defensive line. And then another JMU defensive lineman, Sahir West. He had 45 total tackles last year, 16 solo, 7 sacks, and a forced fumble. He's coming in 6'4", 270-pound lineman from Baltimore, Maryland. Those are 4 defensive linemen that might be able to start day one for Chesney and UCLA. So you have to, again, you have to kind of put an asterisk here a little bit with some of these guys. Some of them, not much playing time. Maybe they were blocked. Um, Maybe they had a good season and then dealt with injury last year, things of that nature. The defensive line has got potential. I will use that word for what they brought in the portal. They've got potential. Now let's go to linebacker. Drew Spingatti, 6'1", 229 pound junior from JMU, 54 total tackles last year, 1 sack, 2 fumble recoveries, 3 pass deflections. He's going to play. Drew's going to play. He knows the system. He's going to play. But I think one of the gems in this transfer portal was going and getting Oklahoma linebacker Sammy, and I can't even try to pronounce the last name. We'll just call him Sammy Omasigo, maybe? Yeah, I probably butchered that. 6'1", 235-pound junior from Heartland, Texas. 50 tackles last year, 2 sacks, a fumble recovery for the Sooners last year. He's going to start day one and probably be one of the best defenders on this team. When you look at another possible linebacker, UCLA was able to get Ryan McCullough from Cal. Last year, only 11 tackles, 1.5 sacks. But if you look at 2024, he had 19 tackles, 3.5 sacks. So Ryan McCullough knows how to get to the quarterback, to say the least. 6'3", 255-pound linebacker, good size from Arcadia, California. I think he definitely is going to push for some playing time there at linebacker. In the defensive backfield out of the portal, let's talk about Malik Hartford from Ohio State. After being buried on the depth chart the past couple years behind All-American Caleb Downs, it was a lot of people thought it would be Malik Hartford's opportunity to jump in there after playing really a ton of ball as a freshman, true freshman in 2023, where he totaled 10 tackles, blocked from getting on the field the last couple years, basically didn't play after game number 4 for the Buckeyes so that he could redshirt himself. He's coming into UCLA as probably one of the highest recruiting kids. If you look at his recruiting class back in 2023, he will definitely have every opportunity to start for this UCLA defense in 2026, that being Malik Hartford. Now, how about someone with some ton of production? From Utah, safety Teo Johnson, 51 total tackles last year. By the way, in 2024, he had 70 tackles, a forced fumble, and an interception. 2 interceptions last year in 2025. Dude's got a ton of game reps, probably some of the most game experience out of anybody that's going to be on UCLA's roster. Played on a very good Utah defense. Teo is going to be one of the better defensive players on this team again in 2026 for UCLA. So they've got a really good linebacker from Oklahoma. They got a really good safety from Utah, obviously. They've got potential, like we've mentioned. Oh, I'm not done yet either. How about Tashawn James from Iowa State? 6'1", 215-pound defensive back, 33 total tackles in 2025, a fumble recovery in 2024 as a redshirt freshman, 41 total tackles, 1 forced fumble and a fumble recovery, and a pass deflection, 5 pass deflections in 2025. Again, another defensive back to throw there in that roster. And how about a JMU guy while we're at it, right? DJ Barksdale, 36 total tackles last year, 42 in 2024, 15 as a freshman in 2023. Dude's got a ton of game reps, got a sack to his credit, 4 interceptions as well at JMU. There you have it. A ton of possibilities and talent there in the defensive backfield for uh, for UCLA and for Bob Chesney. So if you just look at the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to get to the offense side next. If you just look at the defensive side of the ball, you saw it. What I was talking about: production and potential. So UCLA is kind of looking at this thing from, if we throw a ton of darts at the dartboard, some of them are going to stick. We're going to be better. It's very similar to what Indiana did. Okay. Now, one of the things that the Indiana coaching staff did, that obviously hindsight being 2020, 2 years later, was the talent they brought in was talent that they might have been underrated but really good. In this case, Chesney not only has some of that coming with him from JMU, but he also had a ton of really high ranked talent that maybe just hasn't panned out yet. Sometimes those kids just need second chances, like I said. All right, let's keep her moving. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball now. And let's talk about offensive linemen, because at the end of the day, guys, that's what you're really here for, right? If you're going to be successful, if Nico is going to have a 2024 Tennessee like year, where UCLA could maybe knock on the door of a CFP in year number one, just like Indiana did, just like Tennessee did when he was at Tennessee in 2024. He's going to need them big hog mollies up front. JMU, Carter Sweezy, offensive lineman, comes in. He was third team All Sun Belt offensive lineman last year. Started all 14 games at JMU at left guard. He's your starting left guard. We're gonna keep it there with JMU guys. How about bringing in redshirt junior Riley Rebel, who was second team All Sun Belt offensive lineman last year, played 13 games, made 11 starts at right guard. There's your left guard. There's your right guard. Okay. And for the center, how about we go to Harvard? Yeah, that's right. Let's go to the Ivy League, where 6'4", 305-pound fifth-year senior Derek Osman will be coming in to take over there. Has over 20 plus starts under his belt. Probably going to be your starting center for UCLA. So you got the interior of your offensive line, two guys who played in the CFP, two guys who Chesney can trust, coupled with a really smart center who's got 20 plus starts under his belt. The middle is very solid for you guys moving forward. But I'm not so sure that um, I'm not so sure that that's not just where we're going to stop, excuse me, because they also went back to the G6 availability list, and they got Jordan Davis, a 3-year starting tackle for South Alabama, the Jaguars. So again, you look at that offensive line, you're like, well, none of those guys are Power 4 guys who were recruited. Offensive lineman is about development. And if you can go into those lower levels and you can bring these guys in who are developed, who are mature, who've got 4 years of weight room and nutrition and a ton of starts under their belt, these are the type of guys who are going to translate well on an offensive line. And I think Chesney knew that right away. Um, Sticking with the offense, let's look at running back. Wayne Knight comes in from James Madison. Last season, 207 carries, over 1,300 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns last year for JMU. This was the number one guy for the Dukes, and he's going to be the number one running back at UCLA, probably in some kind of duo tandem of some kind, because you're going to need that in the Big Ten. But he comes in, the 5'7", 190-pound junior, going to be his senior year. Yeah, he's going to be in there. Now, let's talk wide receiver. Samaj Morgan, Wide receiver from from Michigan, not Ohio State, from Michigan. 5'10", 174-pound, from Detroit, Michigan. Was a big-time recruit for Michigan. Last season, 20 catches, 223 yards, and a touchdown. The year before, in 2024, 27 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown. As a freshman in 2023, he had 22 catches, 204 yards, two touchdowns. Just never saw that progression or development there in Ann Arbor. And so he leaves with 1 year of eligibility left. He will more than likely be your slot receiver. And I think Nico is going to love Samaj Morgan, who I think is going to have a big time year for UCLA. He's not alone, though, in the wide receiver room, as they went out and got Leyland Smith for his junior year from what school is that? San Jose State. Gee, many Christmas. Had a brain fart there. 6'4", 215-pound Houston, Texas native. 43 catches, 88 yards, 3 touchdowns last season. There's your X right there. Put him on the outside at 6'4", 215. Big target for Nico. And then how about another wide receiver, 6'2", 213-pound Landon Ellis, 36 catches, 624 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. As a sophomore in 2024, 50 catches, 588 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Landon Ellis comes from JMU, very familiar with the offense. I think those are your 3 starting wide receivers. They went out and got 5 of them. So they have plenty of options at wide receiver. Maybe they do some rotation, but I think those are the 3 that Nico is going to love having on this football team. So there you have it, guys. I think if you really want to be honest with yourselves, UCLA has got a ton more talent than they had the last 2 seasons. They've got an experienced coach who has won at multiple levels and is hungry to do it at the highest level possible. And he's got his staff. He's got a ton of players followed him who have experience in the CFP. I think UCLA is heading in the right direction, no doubt about it. Now, this schedule that I mentioned isn't easy. Non-conference, they got Nevada, San Diego State, 2 very good G6 schools, and they got an away trip to ACC Power Cal, who will be have a new coach themselves. I just wanted to say ACC Power. I thought that was funny. Maybe you didn't. Anyways, they're going to be on the road with an old rival from the Pac-12 in Cal. Away games in the Big Ten: at Maryland, at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Oregon. Maryland should be a win. I'm sorry, it is. Maryland is not a very good football team. At Michigan, that's an uphill battle. At Oregon, it's almost an impossibility. At Minnesota, it's going to be difficult. It's a tough place to play. But can they win it? Sure, absolutely. They're going to need to see a ton more improvement. Home games in the Big 10 this year: Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, USC, Wisconsin. Looking at that, I think Purdue, Michigan State should be games that they win, in all honesty. Actually, Purdue, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not a very good football team either. 3 of those should be wins at home. Illinois, we'll see what they are this year. They lost a ton of veteran talent there. Maybe that one is one where they can get them since it's at home. USC going to be an uphill battle. So if they're able to beat Cal on the road, Minnesota on the road, Illinois at home, and they win the games that I think they should win: San Diego State, Nevada, Michigan State, Purdue, Wisconsin. We're looking at a team that is somewhere in the ballpark of 9-3. Now, is that wishful thinking? Maybe. I set the over under that Vegas will give this team at 6.5. 6 games get you to a bowl game. It's better than you've been the last few years. Will the UCLA fan base be happy with 6? I think the majority of them will be. Will they be a lot happier with 7, going 7-5? Yeah, absolutely. Will they be very, very happy at 8-4? Oh, you betcha. They will be ecstatic if they're 9-3. By the way, 9-3 in the Big Ten, you're just on the outside looking in, but you're in the discussion for college football playoff in year number 1, which is what Indiana was. Now, Indiana in year number 1 had 2 things to their advantage. They had a very easy schedule in year number 1, okay? And they won a big home game over Michigan in year number 1. They're going to have to do that. It's going to have to be a big win over USC in year number 1 to get them in that conversation where maybe they can jump USC and they become the 3rd or 4th team from the Big Ten to get into the CFP at 10-2, with losses at Michigan and a loss at Oregon. Here's the thing: Michigan's also got a new head coach. You got Morgan coming back, right? Can they catch Michigan napping? Possibly in the big house? Massive win? I don't know. I'm just spitballing at this point, but as I look over this UCLA thing and everything they've done in the transfer portal, I do see a ton of similarities to what Indiana did back in 2024. John, I hope that answers your question. I hope that you appreciate my analysis. I think UCLA is probably more than likely next year going to be somewhere around 7-5 and going bowling. We'll do a top 5 for them later on as far as their schedule is concerned. And of course, when we get into doing season previews and things, I'll probably have the UCLA guys on from the College Huddle for an exclusive interview as well. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with more college football content right here on the College Huddle.